work in progress. I was living my life, feeling my way, take another step, I was seizing the day. Yeah. On my own, working hard to achieve. Many times by faith, I just had to believe. Patience is the word you learn to know. It's not how fast you get there, but how far you go. Life, I was singing a melody. I was living a dream, promised to me, take another chance, being all I could be. I was singing a melody, yeah.
I'm really excited and honored today to get to chat with a guy who's been one of my vocal heroes for a long time, since the day I met him. I don't remember the year it was, but it was New Year's Eve. We were playing a gig with Livin' Large out at Lake Oconee at Reynolds Plantation. And we got together that night and played together. And from the first moment I heard him sing, I was like, well, who is this guy? And we played a lot of gigs over the years and just in a lot of different formats. And all of that said, I just can't wait to find out more about him and just catch up, because it's been a little while since we've seen each other. So all of that said, it's a pleasure to have my pal, Mr. Adam McKnight, on the podcast. Hey, Adam, how are you?
Great. There's no complaints.
It's great, man. It's so good to see your face and to catch up with you and just talk for a little while about how awesome I think you are.
Well, I appreciate it, brother, and it's back at you, because I always believe that no matter what I do, the supporting cast has got to give me something to work with. And
that's exactly it.
And you guys always have given me something to work with.
Yeah. Yeah, I was playing with Livin' Large, and we were playing a New Year's Eve gig. And I think that was the first time you you sang with the band. And we were out at Lake Oconee.
Oh, yeah. Now it's all coming back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the first time I checked you guys out, and you had the full band with the horns, and yeah, that was a fun night.
It was a fun night.
It was a fun
Brooks
night.
And Brad and Scott and
man,
I think Marty was playing and Darian was probably playing. Yeah, it was a super band.
It was a super group.
And,
Yeah.
And then that kind of set us in motion, me and you playing a lot with that band and doing a little bit here and there. But so yeah, I just wanted to kind of done a little bit of reading up on what all you've done, man. You've had and continue to have quite an amazing career in the music world, and you've done some really cool stuff.
Yes, I have. I've been blessed. I've always just tried to stick with doing what I do best and treat people right along the way, and I've enjoyed every moment of every minute, hard, good, bad, and ugly, going through this, and trying to figure out who I was as a musician and what I had to contribute to the world,
Yeah. Well, and it's, you know this too, but the ability and the talent, it's only one piece of the puzzle. And
a minute piece.
Minute piece. You're exactly right. It's a very small piece in the equation of it all. And the way you treat everyone in your group, the way you treat everyone that's on the gig that may not be in the band. The person that's serving your meal or anything like that. There's a lot to that. And I would say your character has meant more to me than your musical ability. And that says a lot, because I think a lot of you is a musician. And I
appreciate that. Yeah, because that's one thing I've always tried to be, and something that my parents taught me, when I was growing up. It's like you treat people right. And, they were good, God-fearing family. And so, you know, my mom used to always say, you know, you put God first and do what you're supposed to do, and he'll take care of the rest. And I actually have my entire career it was started actually from a sermon in church telling me to step out on faith.
Really?
Yeah. And I was terrified. I was terrified because I didn't know nothing about the music business. I came from the country. I'm a country boy from South Carolina, and I knew nothing about that they even had performing arts schools and things like that. I knew nothing of that in the 60s, you know, because I grew up in the 60s. And so when I, you know, got out into the world, got my degree, and, you know, but I was singing. I started singing, of course, in the church, and ended up getting in a band in high school. And I was actually only 13 years old when I started singing in a band, and we used to do nightclubs and stuff. And I was able to do it because I had a bigger brother. My older brother was a drummer in the band as well. So my parents allowed the two of us to do this. You know, they weren't too thrilled about it, but, you know, it was something we wanted to do. And we were blessed to be able to just get into music during that time. And so it started me on the path. And once I got on that path and had that itch and feeling that I wanted to be an entertainer, a musician, then it's just always been in me. And if it's in you, you gotta find an outlet for it.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I went to school, got me a degree. I got a degree in mathematics because that was my second best subject in music. And so I just, you know, wondering after I got out of school, what am I going to do with the math degree? And that was teach. It was all, you know, on your brain.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to just be a teacher. I wanted to be a musician. And so I was actually teaching school at the time that I went to this church. And I had just finished my first play. I did a gospel play at Christmas time. It was Black Nativity. And that was the first play I'd ever done, professional play. And after getting that bug, and I started auditioning for things, and I got cast for UB, the show about UB Blake. But I was teaching school at the time, and I didn't know that they rehearsed the same time I'm in school. So I had to make a decision. I went to my principal and told him what was happening. And he told me, he said, well, you just have a decision to make. And I prayed about it. And I had, 1 weekend and 2 days before I had to let him know. He said, you need to let me know by this Tuesday. And it just, you know, and I had to make a decision. And I went to that church that Sunday, and the pastor's sermon was about stepping out on faith. And that was the start of everything.
It's amazing to be in a situation like that where you probably had a moment where you felt like you were the only person in that church.
Yeah.
And he was speaking directly to you and no one else.
Nobody else.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because afterward, I went up to him because he said it. He was, you know, he was a Baptist minister. He was walking the pews and he said, this is meant for somebody. And it was so powerful. And I went up to him afterwards and told him that was meant for me. And so he told me, he said, well, come back in my office, let's talk. And then we talked, and I told him what I was going through and what I was trying to do as a musician. And it just happened that one of his close friends was a musician. Her name was Myra Walker. And he wanted to introduce me to her because she worked in that industry. And I got with her and did my first demos. And ever since that, it's just been, I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
So you said you were from a small area in South Carolina. Where in the state were you born and raised?
I always say it's closer to Myrtle Beach, like in between Myrtle Beach and Charleston. Small town called Kingstree. Okay. And it's in Kingstree is actually like it's Kingstree, Lake City area. Lake City is, you know, where Ron McNair was from, the astronaut. And so that's made that little area, Lake City, Florence, so in that general area. Yeah. So
obviously you had supportive parents and that you and your brother were able to go and play gigs before you were old enough to drive.
Absolutely.
Were your parents musical as well? Any music at home playing, or were they just listeners?
Well, no, actually, my mom sang. But, you know, everything, of course, was, like I said, the church back then. But my mom had a beautiful voice. And my dad did a little bit of singing. He not a lot. And so we kind of got it from them. My sister sings. She actually sings with me in my choir now when we travel. And both of my sisters sang, and my brother, who was in the band with me, he was a drummer, so he played drums, and so we just, you know, we have a musical family. Our extended family is kind of everybody's got some kind of music in them.
Yeah,
but I'm the only one who's kind of jumped out into the world and tried to fight it.
Well, it takes a lot of guts to step out there and. Yeah. Into the unknown and say, okay, all right, world, here I come. Let's see what happens, you know.
That's amazing. That's something my mom actually said to me before she passed, too.
Really?
She's told me. She said, baby, you've had more strength and bravery braver than I would have ever been. So keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so that was, you know, and that was all that actually happened just before the Olympics.
Really?
Yeah, and she passed away. Yeah.
So when did you move to Atlanta?
I moved to Atlanta in 1983.
Okay.
1983. I had this a whole nother level of things. But when I graduated from college, I was actually going to be another Tuskegee Airman. So I went to pilot training.
What?
I know that's something you never knew.
No, I didn't know that.
So I went to pilot training right after I graduated from college. And it's because, in just happenstance, I was riding with my sister and her boyfriend back from Florida. And I was in the back seat looking up in the sky, saw a plane. And I literally said to him, he was in Air Force ROTC. I said, do you think I could get in the Air Force and learn how to fly? Because that was the only reason I wanted to go, was just to learn how to fly. and it was something I'd never done. And I had only been in a plane once in my life, just flying from Columbia to Montgomery, Alabama. And that was the one time I'd been in. But I got a chance to take the test at Tuskegee and pass the test, mostly flying colors because of my math skills.
Right.
And after I scored so well on that, but as far as like aerial skills, I had no clue because I had never been up in a plane. So a lot of that was guesswork. So I had to go through all that guesswork. But anyway, I'm sorry, just to move forward. I was in the Air Force and I was in pilot training. I had gone through a total of 10 months, and I had soloed T-38s 4 times, which was the last plane I would need to be in. And before I get my pilot license. And one day, after a 12-hour day on the flight line, we would go to the officers club and we're standing around and everybody's still talking flying. And I just all of a sudden was standing in the crowd of all these officers talking about flying after a 12-hour day. And I said, you know what? I don't want to hear nothing else about no flying today. And I thought to myself, I am out of place. And I went home that night, called one of my best friends, and told him what was going through. And he asked me a question that no one else had ever asked me. He said, Adam, are you happy? And I could not answer that. And he said, so why are you there? And all I could say was because I didn't want to let Tuskegee down as a Tuskegee Airman. I had just been there, and one of the guys who came there with me, he was washed out of pilot training like nothing, like so quickly. He was gone. And so I didn't want to let the university down as a Black Tuskegee Airman. And so I stayed in, and just after that night talking to him on the phone, and I called my mom, and she actually was relieved because she was nervous about me flying.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I went to talk to my commanders and told them what I was going through, and actually just happened that the company commander's son was a musician. So when I went in to talk to him, he said, I understand. And I could say also another reason why they were so understanding is I I ended up being head of the choir on bass.
Really?
During the time I was there. And I was singing in the chapel, and the chapel started getting packed every Sunday morning. And so it was packed every Sunday morning. And people would come up to me right after service was going and ask me, why am I in the military? And I got that question so many times, you know, and as a young man, I was just 20. Yeah, I was just 20 years old. And for people to keep coming to me and ask me that question, and it resonated. And it's like, why am I? And it was amazing. So when I, finally just got out of pilot training, and they said I had 15 days to be released. And I took my little Toyota SR5 and put a Jar-Tran trailer on the back of it and packed up all my stuff within 15 days. And I was out of there and back home, and ended up doing what I didn't plan to do, teach. So anyway, so I had a couple of years of that before I ended up back in Atlanta.
Wow.
Well, in Atlanta.
What a story you had to tell, Adam.
Brother, you have no idea the things that I've done and I've been through, that I've learned in the process, all of which have helped me to survive as long as I have in this business, you know.
And then meanwhile, on every stop of the way, it's like music has found its way to be present in that and just was constantly pulling you to it, I think.
Exactly. And I mean, even since I first did that, and, you know, every now and then, because finances, like, say, okay, I might need to go back and get me a job or whatever. But every time I would start to do that, God would send another gig. I said, no, I don't want you doing that. I need you doing this. And each time, and it has been like that my entire life.
Wow. That is just amazing. I had no idea about that entire part of your life that you had done that.
And that within itself is a story. That 10 months within itself is a major thing.
When they make a movie about your life, make sure they focus some on that, okay?
Okay. Yeah, it was amazing.
First met, you were honest from the start. You said that you were the loving type, and you gave it from your heart, holding back from your advance. Temptation had me bound, afraid to give and take a chance, to let my love guard down. I wanna be loved, and I wanna be loved by you. I'll put aside my foolish pride, do just what you want me to. I wanna be loved, and I wanna be loved by you. As long as we can be together, love you now and know forever.
So when you got to Atlanta, did you start gigging them right away, or did you?
When I got to Atlanta, I had no clue what I was going to do. I had some friends in Tuskegee, sorority sister, actually. I'm a Phi Beta Sigma, and my sister's Zeta Phi Beta. But one of the girls I knew from school in the fraternity, she told me, when I got to Atlanta, she said, Adam, what you need to do is get yourself in some theater classes or get in some dance classes, you know, and get yourself seen and you know, and get to know people and that kind of thing. And that's what I did. And that's how I got in Black Nativity, because I was going to these classes and meeting the people who were actually in charge of the show. So when I auditioned, you know, after I'm already getting some movement, so I already knew how to do some moves, but after they heard me sing and I did, you know, then I was cast, and that was the start of me getting, as I transitioned to the recording thing. It's just that the theater was a few years, and I knew nothing about theater. I knew nothing. It was all new to me. So beyond the singing in the church and singing in the bands, that was it for me. And
yeah. Well, and then because in the theater, I mean, you're not just focusing on the vocal part, you're focusing on any type of text that you're reciting, and then the movement, like you said, the dance piece.
Yeah.
And then putting all of that together and making it seem like you're not thinking about any of it while it's happening.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So actually, and that was the year actually that my mom accepted the fact that I was going to actually pursue being a musician, because they drove from South Carolina to see me here in the show. And, my folks, they rarely travel. And for them to, to come here and they wanted to see me in the show, my mom, I didn't have time to see them because they were trying to get back to Carolina afterward. And so I had to run out, my makeup on and all the stuff to say bye. And as they were leaving, my mom hugged me and she said, baby, that's the happiest I've seen you since since you were born. So keep doing it,
Keep doing it.
Yeah.
And because I think at the end of the day, any good parent, they just want to see their children happy.
Happy. That's it.
That's happy.
That's it.
And
that's it.
You were following your dream. You had tried other things.
Yes.
Right. So
yes. But I've always, something that she always told me too was to have something to fall back on. Mm-hmm. That was the purpose of me even going to school, going to college, and being able to. Thankfully, during that time, we had scholarships and grants. So prayerfully, I went through 4 years of college and only borrowed $600. So. When I tell people that, just like that, they say, what? $600. My freshman year at South Carolina State, I got grants and scholarships, because I was a smart student. I was a good student. And, but I got these scholarships, and I only had to borrow $300 for each semester at South Carolina State. Well, when I got to Tuskegee, I had grants, I had scholarship for the choir, and I had ROTC coins coming in. So everything was taken care of practically my whole 4 years of college.
Wow.
So
and then when you leave, you're on the path, and you're not. I mean, listen, my son's graduating from college in about a month.
That's amazing.
And can you believe that?
Yeah. Okay.
And he's going to be inheriting some college debt from some loans along the way, and it's hard. It's
very hard, and that's why I do not envy these kids nowadays. I do not, But like I said, I've lived a blessed life. I'm really thankful for it all. Like I said, there were some really hard times, but God has kept me sustained, and each time I think that I'm about to lose it as a human, He lifts me right back up. So okay, I'm gonna keep listening.
Yeah.
But you got to pay attention.
I'm curious of this because I think about this for myself. The older that you get, how does your perspective on that change? In that the older I get, the more I realize the love and support that I had from my family. And I don't want to say I took it for granted when I was younger, but I don't think I appreciated it as much as I should have.
Right. Because at the time we're going through it. Yeah. And we're learning as we go. And one thing, even one of the gigs I sung at when I was in the military, I went to this outside performance and sang for this gospel thing. And I asked this lady, she was an older lady who had been, in her business for a minute. And she said, the one thing you never stop doing is listening to what people say. Because if you listen to what somebody says, it may not suit you at that point in your life. But at some point, then all of a sudden it's, oh, man, then you recognize it,
Yeah.
So that's what I've learned to do through the years. I listen, I keep my mouth shut. Sometimes you just keep your mouth shut and listen to people. You can learn a whole lot,
What's that old saying that you can't tell the difference between a wise man and a foolish man if they both have their mouth closed?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct.
That's absolutely right, but you're so correct. There's a lot of power in listening. There's way more power in listening than there is in speaking.
Yeah.
And that's powerful stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how I've lived the majority of my life in listening. And I mean, that's how I picked up a lot of the things I singing wise, just listening to other people, the different people I've sung with, the different types of music. I mean, I've sung everything from country to country, gospel, and classical. I mean, even had an opportunity to do a classical piece one time. It just, so I've just been so blessed, and each one of those things teaches me something different,
And I'll tell you what I've always told everyone about you as a singer is that anytime you sang a song, no matter what it was, where it was, or who was in front of, you sang it like it was the most important song you were ever going to get to sing. Or that it was maybe the last song you were ever going to get to sing.
Yeah.
And that conviction to me is, I think that's why you're still doing what you do. Yeah. You place value on the importance of providing music to people.
Right. And I believe that music is made for emotion, and I have a lot of emotion. And I know, and I just, and if I believe in a song, especially if I believe in a song, then I just, it just comes through me more emotionally than anything. And I give it my best no matter what it is. And I've taken those challenges, especially when I was younger, taking those challenges, boy, now.
I understand. I'm way less, I'm less of a risk taker the older I get.
The older you get, brother. I am so settling into the fact that I just hit retirement age. But I've worked so hard, and I just want to be able to enjoy a little bit of it, even though I'm still working. Mm-hmm. I'm still working, and I love it. I love it. And I'm supporting this dance company here, Ballet Dance Company, and they are the friends of mine. Actually, I started my first tour ever with Nina Gilreath and Waverly Lucas. They were this black dance ballet couple that I had never seen a black ballet dancer. And this was back in 1989. And they were on tour with me. Well, anyway, after they left the tour and came home and started this dance company, and just because some people who were supporting them pushed them out to start their own. They wanted to start something, and they've been around for 34 years.
Wow. I think that you and I played a show at their facility. I think we did a Donny Hathaway tribute night. You did the music of Donny Hathaway one night.
Yeah. And
I believe it was there because I believe they had a group that danced that night as well.
It was an event we played at. And
yes.
They danced. Yes, I do remember that. And I was at one of the hotels in Atlanta, wasn't it?
This was actually, I believe this was at their facility.
No, not theirs. Because they don't have that type of facility.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
It was you and me and Brooks and I can't remember who was playing drums. But yeah, we did a show of Donny Hathaway music that night.
Yes, and I think but they're the most incredible company, and the two of them when they danced and I was singing in the show, it was just the most beautiful thing I've seen. And for them to take it now into the community and teach these young kids and the discipline that they're learning from learning ballet and things like that they would never have, first of all, even have access to,
Yeah.
It's incredible. And that's why I just kind of latched onto them when I came home and stopped being on the road most of the time. And I've been helping them, with tech stuff that I learned from being, being in the music business. Everything that I've learned is because so I could survive in the music business. Yeah. So I'm taking those skills and using it with them right now. I'm actually getting ready to go to a conference at the beginning of this week for them.
Really?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. What a great thing to do, though, to bring ballet to maybe people in that community that otherwise wouldn't be exposed to it.
We've done some what they call lecture demos in the schools, in the elementary schools, and just to see the look on these kids' faces when they come out in these leopard costumes and girls are dancing on point and stuff, and they've never seen the few shows that I did with them initially when I went with them to a couple places we went in North Carolina, and I've been videotaping something, and I sit there and just watch the expression on these kids' faces. That's the joy for me. And it's just, you know, those are the kind of feelings I love getting. So yeah, that's why I'm here to support this as long as I can.
Well, and I suppose it's a full circle thing, because somewhere along the way, a dream was planted in you with music that was cultivated and grew, and who knows, one of those young people might see it, and that happens for them.
That's exactly why I do it, because I can remember the moment. I was in 4th grade. The schools were just integrated, and my family sent us to the schools with the white kids. And they took us to see The Sound of Music. That's my first memory of singing and just seeing it on a screen. And that's when I decided I wanted to be into music. It's crazy. And then, of course, the years leading through, you know, getting in the band and learning how to play the trumpet, because I played the trumpet for all those years until my freshman year in college. So anywho, it's just, yeah. And those are the reasons why I do those things, because I think of what it did for me. Man,
that is amazing. Well, I know that's important work that you guys are doing, and it's going to pay in dividends that you'll probably never even know.
Absolutely.
You know, just for young people to know, to maybe remove some limitations of what is a possibility. What is a possibility? Yeah. Yeah. I really am. I'm very, very thankful to have this to give back to. Yeah. You know, from what it's all given me. Yeah. That's amazing.
They say when you laugh, the world laughs with you. Yet when you cry alone. The brightest star doesn't shine so brightly amidst the clouds of a heavy storm. Your smile lights up my world, drying every rainy day. But without you in my life, the rain just won't go away. I need to have you here. I need to have you near. I can't stop the rain that keeps falling in my world. I can't stop the rain. My world is all away.
I wanted to ask you about the time that you, because I'm sure a lot of people that are going to hear this that are learning about you would be very curious to know about this whole deal that happened with Elton John, Sir Elton John.
With Sir Elton.
How in the world did all of that come to be?
Brother, once again, it's the people you meet. And I was blessed to have met Jan Smith. Mm-hmm. And Jan and I had done a couple of shows together in the city. It's where we ended up doing some duets together. And she knew that I had a choir. And so when she got a call looking for some singers for the music for Lestat, I didn't know what it was at the time. At the time, it was they needed 3 gospel singers for a gig. I got a phone call out of the blue saying, Adam, Jan Smith gave me your name. I need to get some gospel singers. I need 3 singers. You know, I said, well, I can pull that off if it's like the next week or whatever. I said, no problem. I got, I said myself and 2 of my female singers. And so we showed up at the studio that day, and I walked in the studio and saw all these platinum and gold albums on the wall. And I had never been to the studio, so I didn't have a clue who the studio session was for. And we went upstairs and we were waiting for a time to come, and then Davy Jones came up, who was Elton's music director. I had no clue who he was. All I knew that he was British or Scottish or something. And, he came up and he told me, he said, well, we're going to go downstairs and we're going to listen to the tracks, and then we just arrange it as we go. And so we go downstairs and walked into the control room, and there's Elton sitting there. And, you know, all you could do is just try to maintain your cool. Hey, how you doing? Right. Nice to meet you, you know. And so we started, this was when he was recording the music for Lestat, because he wanted Anne Rice to hear it the way he wanted to do it. And so we ended up recording 7 songs in 5 hours and arranging. And what we did was we were sitting at the table. They would play the track. It already had Elton's vocal lead on it. And they would say, Davey would show me the lyrics and where they wanted particular things. And I would arrange it right there in the room with Elton. And then he would hear and he said, oh, I like that. And then we would walk out and go around and record the track. And we ended up recording so many tracks that day. They didn't expect to be gone. They had expected to be there 2 or 3 days. And Davey said, I can get home. So they changed all their flights and got back home. But they fell in love with us that day. And it was the wildest thing, because, like I said, you just had to maintain your cool. You know, we were trying, the 3 of us would maintain our cool, but as we would come out the studio, we would come out of the booth, out of the control room, and the studio booth was like out that door and right into the next door. Or the minute we walk out the door, we would stop and we would go in a circle and look at each other and go, Elton John. And then we would walk in. And then we would walk on into the studio, maintain our cool again, and go ahead and record that song. And we just knocked them out, you know, left and right. So after that day, and we were leaving, it was raining on the outside, and the guy who had called me about the gig, he ran out and he said, man, I just want to come out and tell you, man, they're in there loving the fact that you guys were able to knock this out and do it for them. So about 2 or 3 months later, I think it was. Yeah, well, actually, it was January the next. It was about 2 or 3 months. And it was right around, it was a week before Martin Luther King's birthday. And I had gone to Myrtle Beach. My family has a timeshare down there, and I had gone down there to just write some music, just get away and write music. And my phone rang, and I didn't know the number, but I picked it up, and I said, hello. And it was Davey. He said, hey, man, he said, Elton's calling. Elton wants to know if he can record you and your choir, your entire choir. He's doing his own. This was the first CD he had produced of the entire, of all his career. And he wanted to do the Peachtree Roll album.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he did. He called me and he said, well, we want you to arrange the background vocals and we want to use your choir on the song. And at this time we were talking 3 songs. And so I said, well, I'm in Myrtle Beach right now. He said, well, when you come back in town, just come by the studio. And it was out at Tree Sound. Mm-hmm. And so I went out, and when I got there, and Davey met me, and then took me in the studio and saw Elton. You know, they were in there just recording away. And went in there and hugged them and talked to them for a few minutes. And Davey said, we're going to go upstairs. And we went upstairs with he had a boombox and he had a book. And the book had all the lyrics that Bernie had written and sent down to Elton. Elton was just going to put the music to whatever songs he wanted to use. So they had 3 songs completed. And he said, Adam, we want you to take these home and arrange the background vocals. I said, what? He said, no, we want you to, he said, no, we trust you. I said, okay. So of course this was terrifying to me. And, I had this 16-track recorder at my house. I took those 3 songs home with those lyrics, and I started arranging. This was a Thursday. I started arranging maybe that Thursday night. That night, I started arranging those 3 songs and putting all the vocals together on them. And one of them had my full choir of 30 people. And I had to arrange certain sections of that song the way I wanted him to hear it because of the length. And I contacted my choir and told them we had a session on Monday, which was Martin Luther King's birthday. It was a session. But I didn't tell them who the session was with or none of that. So I had to keep all of that quiet. So I called all of them and we had rehearsal. I said, we got a studio session on Monday, everybody. I need y'all, here. So we rehearsed that Sunday, and then that's when I told them. Anyway, we went into the studio on that Monday, and I had one song with the full choir, and I had all these different rounds. So I wanted him to hear the way I did it. So, I said, if we had to do section by section, I wasn't sure how they were going to do it. Yeah. But anyway, I had arranged it that way so he could hear all the parts as we went through it. And right after we finished the recording of the first one, and they said, Adam, could you come into the control room? I said, oh shit, I put it down.
Here we go.
Here we go. And I walked in the control room, and everybody in the control room said, man, that's happening. It's exactly what we were looking for. I said, oh, thank you. And so we got that song recorded, and we had recorded 2 other songs that day with a couple of my female background singers. I used them for specific backgrounds. And so I arranged the other 2 songs. And so we did those 3. And then I got a call from them, 3 or 4 weeks later, because they said they were going back to LA. And I thought they were going to finish music out there, but they didn't. So I ended up coming back and doing 3 songs with all male singers background. So I got those, I rearranged those and brought those back. And we got those 6 done. Then I got another call. She got 3 more songs. So we ended up doing 9 songs. 8 of them made the album. The other one was released in London. And it was... So, like I said, and I kept telling my singers as we were going through this process, I said, get your passports ready, just in case. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm one of those people that say, I better be prepared than not. And I kept telling them that. And actually, one of my bass singer, who's, he procrastinated. So when Elton asked us to do the CD release, I had to get 8 of my singers together, and they sent me a CD with 26 songs on it and said, arrange them any way you want to, the background for the tour. And we went to the first rehearsal. When they got here to the Tabernacle, we went to the first rehearsal. And at the first rehearsal, after we finished that, I was leaving the Tabernacle to go home, and my business manager called me and said, Elton wants to take the guys to London next week. I said, what? Next week. Now, so we just had 1 rehearsal for the CD release, and we only had 2 days to rehearse for that, and we did the CD release. But then he was taking us to London for TV shows, 2 TV shows, and so my 4 male singers, the one I kept telling to get his passport, he didn't have his passport. So I had to call one of my other buddies, who was actually Mark Ford, who was actually doing Rent on Broadway at the time. And he and I used to sing together in Atlanta. So I called him up. I said, Mark, can you possibly get a week off from Rent to go with me with Elton John to London? He said, what? He said, what? I said, can you get off? Because if so, I need another singer. And he actually went to the people at Rent, and when he mentioned Elton John, they said, oh yeah, you got to go.
Yeah, you go ahead.
You got to go. So they let him off, and we went that week. It was the most wonderful thing. We only had 2 shows that week. 1 show I think 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Thursday, or something like that during the week. And we were there for a whole week at the Royal Garden, and they took care of us, you know. And from the time I can remember back when I used to talk to some of my friends about who were doing tours and stuff with different people. And I used to always say to God, if you ever send me the opportunity to background somebody, make it somebody significant. Ooh, there it was.
There it was.
And there it was. And it was the best couple of years of my life. And I am so thankful for those years. He was the most generous and the most giving man. And every city we got to, when he got there, the first thing he would ask me is, are they taking care? I said, yes, sir, they are. And the entire tour they did, they took care of us. And it was such a blessing. They gave me what I asked for. And there wasn't no qualms, no nothing. and wow. You know, so it was a major, major blessing. You know, things that most people wouldn't get, you know, for a background singer. I asked for everybody to have their own rooms, and they did, you know, the entire tour. So,
wow. Well, and I would imagine that from the day you met him,
yeah,
that he saw from the beginning that he could trust you,
yeah, because
you walked in, you were efficient, you guys knocked it out, you did a great job, and every time he called on you after that, you showed up and did it.
You did it.
So you weren't going to let him down.
Nah. It ain't in me.
No.
If I can help it, no.
But my goodness, what an amazing, I mean, he obviously, what you guys did, it connected with them, and it was an important thing that you were doing on that project. Wow, that's amazing.
It was. I mean, I always pinch myself, and other musicians, they say, man, how you did that, brother? That was God. That was all God.
Man.
And at a time when I needed it.
Yeah.
Once again, at a time when I needed it. And so, yeah, it was special. Yeah.
You wake up early Sunday morning. It's already 8:30. You gotta get yourself together to get to church, or you can't be late. Rushing hard to get to service before the choir begins to sing. It's a holiday season, and you don't want to miss a thing.
Well, and then the same choir, was it the choir did you guys do the Super Bowl?
Yeah, we ended up doing, singing the background with Maroon 5 at Super Bowl.
Wow. What was that process like?
That was a different kind of thing. I'll just say it like that. It was fun, but it was too massive.
Yeah.
Was
that in Atlanta?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so it was just so much when you see the stuff, you see it on TV, but you're there and you're behind the scenes and seeing all this stuff going on. And it was crazy. It was crazy, but it was fun. It was fun. But I'm one of those people. I'm not a huge crowd person.
Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you, Adam. I'm the same way.
And even when it's background, we were in that big facility and stuff, but it was just so much stuff going on. I actually got a burn on my eye from one of the sparklers one night, from the rehearsal and stuff, because the thing was blowing and where they had us and anywho. But it was that's the only thing about that event. It was great. The experience was great. But it was just so much.
Were the vocals, how much stuff was live on that?
We sang. The majority of ours was sung live on top of the tracks that we had gotten. And because we were given, I was sent the tracks, and then I pretty much, I arranged it the way they wanted it arranged, of course, because it's TV. So, but I think they had us singing on top of it.
Yeah.
I believe, but.
And I know that broadcast music gets a lot of criticism for a lot of stuff being pre-recorded, but in a moment like that, it is so crucial. It's so important that they can't leave anything to chance. Nope. And if there's one little issue, it could ruin the whole thing. Yeah. So I do understand why they pre-record a lot of that stuff, but at least they were stacking it with you guys. And
yeah, because they actually, when we showed up the first day of rehearsal, they didn't expect us to sound the way we sounded. So we blew their minds at the first big rehearsal. It's like, oh, they can actually sing. Yeah. They actually know the song. Yeah.
Well, and I think that a lot of times when you see a choir on, behind a major artist, I think they sometimes just get a choir to show that they have one.
Right.
Little did they know that they had hired a really good one.
Right. Exactly. So that's why I was shocked the first day when they found out. I said, well, yeah. I said, yeah, we do sing. We are a real choir.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
So,
I know you also think you've released 3 albums. Is that right?
I've got 3 CDs that I released on my solo, and then I've got one my choir. My first CD release was the one with my choir.
Okay.
And I did that one, and pretty much in memory of my mom. I wanted to get that one done, and after that I did 3 solo CDs. But each time I've done, crazy thing is each time I've done a CD, something else has taken precedent. I completed, like my first CD, I completed just before I got on tour with Elton. So, and I didn't do any promotion, didn't do anything. But I've been, and then the second CD I did with this amazing group of men in Athens. Jerry Hansen produced it, and he put some live stuff together that I was really, really impressed with and loved. He took my music and turned it into something. And then my last one I did just before COVID, and I was just getting ready to get out, start doing stuff live, and everything shut down. So that was a crazy portion of my life, because then all of a sudden, somebody who's been working almost every weekend or every other weekend since I've been performing, to all of a sudden everything just stops.
Yeah.
So it was a weird period. And I never, that was one of those down times when you really understand what anxiety is, because I really experienced anxiety for the first time in my life, or recognized that it was anxiety.
Right. Maybe it was the first time you were able to slow down enough to even know that it was there.
Exactly. Because the music always keeps me going. It kept me going through everything, during my mom's passing, during my dad's passing, everything. It's been about the music to keep me uplifted. And if I hadn't a choir, my choir we are just a group of older people who enjoy singing and who come together and fellowship. We have a rehearsal every 2 weeks. So we get together and we just sing. We do stuff because we do corporate events throughout the year. So I get called for corporate events. And so I do a multitude of those. But we go and we just get together and we sing whatever I'm feeling like singing on that day. And if we got a gig coming up, then we do specific things. But other than that, we keep each other lifted up. Because times are difficult. And so with everything being the way it is, for us to get together in these couple of weeks, then we can have a smile on our face for a couple of hours, and then go home and then be ready for the next day and go back to the same old stuff that we have to deal with. So,
well, and there's a certain part of being a musician, a singer, or a player, or whatever, where obviously you are hoping to bring joy to the audience. Absolutely. But at the same time, I think you have to bring joy to yourself first.
Yeah.
Or at least along the way. Otherwise, it's not going to transfer.
Absolutely.
You're having to support each other musically. And
that's one of the compliments we've gotten when we do corporate gigs, because we pretty much, we go in the morning and we wake people up. They're coming into these big conferences and stuff, and we come in. But one of the compliments we've gotten is that you guys are having so much fun on stage that we see it, we feel it, and that's what it's about. That's exactly what it's about. And speaking of my music and stuff, back to my music, but the dance company, we've actually got a show of all of my original music that they've choreographed. So we did a portion of it last month, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Yeah, we're about to do a couple more shows coming up.
What was that like? Take me on the emotional. It had to, at least if it were me, it would have been quite an emotional roller coaster to watch someone move in that way to music that I had written. How was that for you?
Absolutely. We've actually, it's been a few years that, like Nina and Waverly love my music. So we've got certain pieces that they've choreographed through the years. Like I've got a piece called Children of Africa that they choreographed the most beautiful piece too for the youth, and I got a tune called "You Inspire Me." That one's a good for everybody to do the electric slide kind of thing on, and so it's a lot of fun, different kind of stuff, and we've got some solo pieces that the ballerinas and the dancers that they kill. And so it's just the best feeling in the world because, like I said, you're getting, like you said, your music, and so I'm finally at that point now that I'm trying to focus on my music, so that's why I just retired from the party band thing last year. I did a wonderful couple of years stint with Party on the Moon. Yep. Yeah, and so I did that, and that was fun. And it was coming out of the pandemic, so it was perfect to get me back into life and doing these shows. But last year, it's like, okay, I'm tired. I've been actually performing party bands since I was 13, and I'm now 65. So it's like, okay, it's time to chill a little bit. Yeah. Because the body, like I said, the mind says one thing, and I can do stuff vocally still, but my body is saying on the inside, I'm still 65.
Well, and what people that are listening to this may not realize about corporate bands, party bands, wedding bands, whatever you want to title it, there is so much time involved in playing a gig. You don't just show up at 7:30 and play it downbeat at 8 till midnight. Right. You're there hours ahead of time. Hours. I mean, I know when we used to play with Living Large, we'd have a 8 o'clock downbeat and we'd be arriving at like 2 p.m.
2 in the afternoon. Mm-hmm.
And that's a long day when you don't leave until 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, in Party on the Moon is so popular, in the corporate world that they get on the bus 4 o'clock in the morning, go drive 10 hours, then get off, sound check, gig, back on the bus. Oh. So, like I said, that's perfect for a younger person. And I would never, ever, dissuade anybody from it, if this is your passion and you're young enough to handle it. But you also have to be wise enough to know when to say when.
That's it.
And, I think my wisdom kind of kicked in. So.
My friend always says, the older I get, the better I was. And that's...
That's a good one.
Isn't that great? It's the truth.
It's the truth.
The older I am, man, I'm like, I can't do that. That's a young man's game. I can't do that. That's a young
man. Right. And so I've learned now to be in my place, where my place is. Yeah. And I stick in that spot and I do what I need to do,
Yeah. But, well, I'm glad that you are able to focus on your music because it has to be a wonderful thing to get to finally maybe take a breath, because I'm certain, knowing you, a lot of those songs had to come from a personal place. You weren't just writing songs for the sake of it. You were telling something about your story through the lyrics of those songs.
Messages, and they're all aspects of my life, of my friends' lives, the people around me's life. All those intimate things to a point, but. For me, I'm a huge Earth, Wind & Fire fan. Huge Earth, Wind & Fire fan. So a lot of their music was motivational to me. So when I write a lot of things, it's I'm trying to tell you something. Yeah. And I could be telling you something in a fun way, or I can just tell you something seriously. But it's going to be a message in there, whether the music is going one way or the other.
Yeah. I think that you reference Earth, Wind & Fire. I mean, they're not just a band that has a bunch of cool grooves and a cool horn line. There's a lot of meaning under the hood of those songs.
Under the hood of that. Exactly.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot being said there, and I could see why their music would be a blueprint for as a songwriter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I just grew up listening to them, and you were talking about when you first asked me about my family and the music Well, we had music in the home, of course, and they were coming up during the time when Michael Jackson and Stevie Wonder, little Stevie Wonder, and these were, young black artists that we were finally seeing on Ed Sullivan and things like that, And I know a lot of younger folk nowadays can't relate to any of that because, when you're not in that time, then you really don't understand it. For those who may be experiencing it now and seeing some of the older stuff, I think that may help them to understand a little bit better. But music was important in our home. And even though we would mostly be singing in the church, because I was definitely in the youth choir. You had to be in the choir. You're going to be participating in church. And especially when I got in the band, my mom said, I don't care what time you get home on Saturday night, you're going to be in church on Sunday morning.
So whatever you got to do, you better be there.
Right. Whatever you got to do, you going to be there.
Yeah.
So that wasn't no question.
Yeah.
So you had to go with it, take all of that together. Yeah, but I'm so thankful that I grew up when I did. Like I said, I've lived a blessed life. The music is everything to me. It's me in and out. And I tell people, I said, no, it's who I am. It's not what I am. It's who I am. Music is who I am.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thankful that you chose to share it, and you step out and do it, and man, you do it well. You do it really well.
Well, thank you, brother.
You do it well. So, well, Adam, this has been an absolute pleasure getting to chat with you today.
Mine too, brother. It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
And you're somebody who I know and I'm comfortable with, and so it's always easy to talk.
Yeah.
To somebody that you know and are comfortable with.
Yeah, and I learned a lot, but at the same time, it's the same Adam that I love and miss. Getting to talk with you and just you're just an inspiration to me.
Thank you, brother. I'm glad that does a lot for me.
Yeah.
That really does, because like I said, I try to hold up a light as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, I encourage everyone who listens to this to go out and check out Adam's music. Where can folks check out your songs? I'm on Apple Music. I'm on Amazon Music. I'm on almost every outlet. Okay. Almost every outlet. Adam L. McKnight. Adam L. McKnight. And then yes, sir. AdamLMcKnight.com is your website, and more information there. And I just encourage everyone to go check out Adam's music, because you will not be disappointed, I promise. Yeah. It's great. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate you doing this. Absolutely, Adam. Best of luck to you, and what a pleasure this has been today. Thank you, brother. Let's try to keep in touch. Yes, sir. All right, man. Blessed. Your eyes shine bright like the moon on a dark lit night. With you, my heart sings a tune that makes me feel alright. I kept my heart locked away for so very long. I just can't explain what's going on, but with you I know I can't go wrong. You inspire me. You inspire me to give you my love. You inspire me. My emotions I let go. I'm feeling free to say that I need you around. Thanks for listening to the Bandwich Tapes. I'm your host, Brad Williams. The show's theme is called Placation and was written by Mark Mundy. Drop me a line at the email address, thebandwichtapes@gmail.com. Make sure to subscribe to receive new episodes of the podcast. And while you're at it, please tell someone else about the show. Thanks for listening.